I'm Julia.
And I'm Michelle.
And we're just getting better. This is a podcast for women just like us who are navigating life and just getting better.
Hey, Julia.
Hey, Michelle. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great.
What's going on this week?
This week, I am just enjoying that it is book season time. It's always book season time, but a lot of my favorite authors are getting ready to release books. I feel like book releases are spring, summer, and then fall, winter kind of time. You know, January be kind of slow. So it's like big fiction book season in my world right now. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah. You know, you read more fiction than I do.
I do.
But I am reading, my daughter gave me On Beauty by Zadie Smith.
Oh,
it's really good.
she is amazing.
It's really good.
Yeah, she's one of those immediate buy books for me. She's immediate buy authors.
Nice.
For me. I always just kind of like be on the lookout for her. I don't subscribe to a lot of author newsletters, but when I hear like, oh, she's writing something, or I look and like I hear the buzz of a Zadie Smith book coming out, I'm like, just pre-order.
Yeah.
That just make me happy. So sometimes I forget that until the book is delivered.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, her book came out.
Yeah, I have that happen too. So what do you love? Like, what's a beach book? The type of book. What do you like, you know?
I'm Emily Henry. The first book I read from her was People We Meet on Vacation. And she is always like, to me, reminds me of summer. Her, Elin Hildebrand is like a summer beach. The kind of book you at the beach and you kind of like or like on a vacation or just like at home and just trying to get a beach vibe.
Yeah.
I'm always thinking of books that just are page turners. They just make you feel relaxed. They're set usually on a vacation or like a beach somewhere like that's not my house. And so I like books to transport me on other people's vacation, technically.
That's awesome.
So that's what I'm excited. It's like it's beach book season, but not technically if you're at a beach.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
I'm excited about that and not wearing a coat of the type of anything like that. I just think like, not necessarily about, but just the book thing just reminds me of just like, it's time to like just relax into a way. Like I feel like my fall is where I need to think.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think if I'm in terms of my mind of reading, fall is like I need to be very literate. I need to read books that make me smart. And then anytime once the sun comes out and it's higher than like 50 degrees, I'm like, oh, it's beach books time.
Summer is rosé and books.
Yes, something just it's
sun.
And I mean it's I think right now there's so many great books out.
Yeah.
It's kind of like also with TV. I think there's so many great, well-written TV series or like shows out. I think we're just living, hallelujah, in a time that just has really great books.
Yes.
And really great authors writing great books.
Yes.
To make you think, to make you escape, whatever you want to, if you want to listen to audiobooks, you want to read them. I think we just in that moment of just the really great writing.
I love the audiobooks that are read by the authors.
Yes.
That's a whole nother level, especially the memoirs.
Yes, the memoirs that are read. And then just also, there's such, I love reading, there are a lot of younger women, a lot of young women authors coming out. There's a book on Magical Overthinking by Amanda Montell that she wrote Cultish and she wrote Word Slut. She has a new book coming out. So I'm excited about that because she writes nonfiction book, but she's young. I'm going to say she's a millennial. If I got that wrong, I think she's a millennial, but she's just very super smart. I just finished Taylor Loren's book, Extremely Online, just talking about being online culture and everything. Prolific reporter. I just think... And I would say it's just a great time for women authors.
It's about time.
It's about time.
Yeah.
They've been there, but I just think now I just know so many. And I have like, the book stores emails and I have my library emails and I download books from the library. I buy books in the store like you do.
Oh, gosh. Store books and audio, purchase books and through Libby, books from the library. It's like...
Any way we can get the word.
Yeah,
Any way we can get the word.
You know what makes me think about... So we have a great guest today. Yes. And in her new book, she talks about James Patterson. Read it, people.
I'm a James Patterson fan.
What did you think? Did you know what she shares about him in the book? Did you know? Yeah.
No. And it's just like, wow, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I think, one of the things, like, you learn from reading in a way that if I had really watched her maybe or listened to some of the interviews, I may not have gotten that tidbit. Mm-hmm. But just reading is one of those things. It really, truly is, as we learned when you were younger, reading is fundamental.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't ever get away from it.
You can't get away from
what
it.
they taught you in kindergarten is all you need to know.
Yes. So, ready to bring our guest in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Denise, hi.
Hi.
How are you? Oh my.
I am so glad to be talking to both of you today.
Well, likewise. Thank you. Thank you. Let me before we jump in, let me read a couple of sentences from your bio so that everybody knows a little bit about you, okay? So Denise Hamilton is an author, new book, speaker, and consultant who focuses on the people side of change. Whether it's remote work, AI, or diversifying workforce, today's leaders need new skills to navigate our rapidly changing world. Denise leverages her 25 years of executive experience with Fortune 500 organizations like AOL and CBRE to provide solutions that support employees and the bottom line. Her new book, Indivisible, How to Forge Our Differences into a Stronger Future, is available now. And here it is. Yay. Welcome. Thank you.
Denise, it's a pleasure to have you today. I just want to tell you, I just finished last night because I was just like scrambling because, I was like highlighting, bending the page, highlighting. And then I also have it on my Kindle. So I was kind of matching the Kindle to the physical book. That's just kind of how I do like my annotations. And I just want to tell you, when I saw the title, it made me think like, okay, I remember that in school having to say that as a child every morning, right? Back, I don't have children, so I don't know if they say that now, the Pledge of Allegiance, right? But for those who are listening, can you describe for the idea of indivisible for the people who are listening and who don't really understand the historical context of that word?
Well, like you said, this is a word that we've all said. We've all said it in the Pledge of Allegiance. And I thought it was really interesting. It's a word that we don't even know what it means, let alone aspire to it, right? And even the idea of like, to the flag, which it stands, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, right? When these words were written, they weren't true. They weren't true when they were written. And it's been the responsibility of every generation to make them more true. So I think what I set out to do in this book is to reclaim this concept of what's possible and to kind of gather us up to a bigger goal. I think very often it's not the hurdles or barriers to the big goal that gets in the way. It's the easy access to the lesser goals, to the lower hanging fruit. And I wanted to say, let's go for the brass ring. Let's go for the big prize. And to me, when I think of the term indivisible, I think it's about like seeing the beauty and the value and the worthiness of each and every person and creating spaces and opportunities for them to bring their best gifts forward because we all benefit from their gifts. If everybody is doing their due, then the whole country is better, right? And so, And for me, the metaphor that I use in the book for Indivisible is the human body, right? The brain and the lungs, they don't argue. Which one of us is more important? Which one of us is essential? It doesn't really matter about size and position. The legs, the muscles in your legs are the strongest in your body, and they can take you anywhere you want to go. But you are going exactly nowhere without the tiny little structures in your ear that control your balance. So it's all important. And what we've been kind of talked into is that, well, these people are important, or if you live over here, you're important, or if you went to these schools, you're important. And I think my point is everyone's important. There is no one in the middle. If we could figure out how to be indivisible, we could be indestructible.
Well said.
Speaking of indestructible, you reference Harriet Tubman. Mm-hmm. Okay, so how I have so many questions, but I know we have time. Like, it's really like this. When did this ideation of like the idea of Indivisible and the connectivity to Harriet Tubman come for you?
Well, she has been a muse for me for years. I just think the story is incredible. And I think sometimes we forget. We forget the work that people have done so that the three of us could be sitting right here, right now, having this conversation. And, I really challenge myself to lean into these stories and to dig a little bit deeper. And, here is this woman enslaved, born in the 1800s, couldn't read, couldn't write, had a seizure disorder because she was abused as a child. She didn't have a map. She didn't have a horse. She had never been more than a mile from the plantation. And she ran by herself to freedom, like from the south to the north by herself. Like if we stopped the story right there, it would be phenomenal. This woman turns around and actually goes back. I can't even process it. Y'all, I gotta be honest. I don't know if I would have gone back, right? And I'm just so touched by it. And when she went back, like she didn't get 100 people at a time. She got 3 and then 5 and then 4. And then like the patience, the consistency, the commitment. I'm obsessed with it. And I think the lesson for us all is that when you ask yourself the very hard question, do you have less assets than Harriet Tubman? Do you have less information? Do you have less resources? Do you have literally less of anything than Harriet Tubman had? No, the only thing we have less of is courage and commitment.
Oh, there you go.
Mm-hmm. That's it. And so I think sometimes we kind of, we've been deeply lied to. We've been talked out of our power. We've been talked out of our significance. We become addicted to hopelessness and helplessness. And so I love going back to these stories to remind myself, and hopefully I'm reminding others, that you are so powerful, you are so capable. There's so much that is within you. Like literally, how dare you settle for less than your best? Just how dare you? So Harriet Tubman, everybody should read about it.
Absolutely, yes. It's inspiring. One of the things that you write in your book on page 107 is that one of the biggest challenges of being indivisible is the very human habit of putting ourselves at the center of the story. So as you talk about her story and the empowerment of stories, how do we move beyond centering ourselves to a bigger story?
It's so hard, right? And we saw this a lot right after the murder of George Floyd, to be honest. There are people who had grown up their whole lives, and their story of police was Andy Griffith. That was their legitimate, truthful, honest story. Their honest story. Like when they were kids, if they did pranks or TP'd a house or hit mailboxes, the local officer just brought them home to their house and told your parents, and they got a heart. Like they really had a wildly different experience of police. So then here we come along saying, there's some other experiences. And what we sometimes get trapped in is this idea of my story is true. No, my story is true. No, my story is true. And it's like, wait, maybe both stories are true. Maybe we need to expand the idea of what we think of, because if we can't expand the idea, then we're not operating in truth. Everybody has a story, but the work of our whole lives is to get to the story. What is the actual truth of this situation? And sometimes it's more complex than we've been led to believe, but we can't fix anything that we're not prepared to be deeply honest about. So this idea of allowing the story to change, that is the challenge of all of our lives right now. Can we allow the story to be different? Am I going to hold on to this broken story I have because I've had it for a really long time? And my mom told me this is how it was. And when I was growing up, this is what I saw. Like, if I can't let go of that story, I'm stuck. And I can't allow all of these other beautiful stories to come into my understanding. And so, this idea of banning books and restricting it's about keeping a broken story rather than allowing the story to change.
And with the changing of that story and allowing it to change, you talk about the human capacity due to our difference. Like, we're wasting human capacity due to our differences. And we're both, Michelle and I are like, we're book readers. I mean, that's why we're like taking notes. We're like marginalia in the book. We're not just reading a book. You know, some people just like, oh, I read this book. No, we're like highlighting. And
we have relationships with the book.
Yeah. And then we're texting while we're reading the book. It's not just like, oh, we just had this book and like we're just going to talk about this. But do you find, because I find like the more I know more people who read than I know who don't read, right? And I know the statistics are there about a lot of people who don't read, but there's so much knowledge in books. And so for the human capacity due to our differences, if we have so many differences, how can we come together? How can we say that's your story and this is my story? And they're both of these stories can be true at the same time. How do we actually have that tough conversation?
I think it's so much about relationship. And I know that's not the answer anybody ever expects for me to answer that question, but it is, right? Like, the two of you are friends, and I bet you could call and say, do white people really not use washcloths? Why do black women change their hair so much? Why can you have these conversations? It's because you have an actual relationship. And we have to understand that social media is not a relationship. It is broadcast. And so we're having interactions and profound conversations with ourselves. They're not really in relationship with other people. So, what are you doing to broaden out who you actually talk to, who you actually invest time and energy with? Then you can say, why? When I grew up, it was always like this. Well, how was it for you? I never thought about it like that. A perfect example, I grew up in New York City, in Brooklyn, and gun control was one of the most important issues growing up for me, because I was literally seeing my friends, my neighbors, like, at risk of gun violence. It felt like every day. And then I met friends who lived in Wyoming and on a farm. And they said, we live 3 hours away from the police station. Like, there's nobody that can come if we have a crisis on the ranch. That's why we have guns. And that doesn't mean I don't want us to have gun control. I still do want us to have some kind of, rational policies. But I have to take into account that her experience is not my experience. And if I don't listen to her, if I don't listen to people who have different experiences, then my solutions will be ineffective. They won't be complete. And if you have an incomplete solution, it doesn't last very long. It doesn't survive scrutiny. So if we want to have really great policy, really great decision making, we have to allow ourselves to listen, even when it's uncomfortable to listen, even when it's people that we disagree with. The strangest phenomenon has happened to me since I've been doing this work. People come up to me and say, I cursed my grandmother out. I cursed her out at Thanksgiving because she was racist and what she did and I said, whoa, 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 whoa.
Missing the point.
Nothing that I say should make you feel like I want you to curse your grandmother out. I don't want people to be out of relationship. I want them to be in relationship and to figure out how to keep talking to each other. We are frozen right now because our Congress can't talk to each other. There's no compromise. When you value winning over the best solution, you're frozen and you're stuck. So I always try to challenge myself. Do I just want to win? Do I just want to be right? Or do I want the right solution? And I think if more of us did that and humbled ourselves, there's a humility that you have to have in here that maybe I don't have it all figured out. Maybe I don't know everything. I actually have a little shrine in my office, and I have 3 items on my shrine. The first is an Airbnb sticker. Because if you had come to me and said, Sally and Simon Stranger from the internet are going to stay at your house, I'm going to, it would have been a no for me. They would not have gotten any venture capital from Denise Hamilton. That just would not have happened. But I would have been a couple $1 billion wrong, right? The second item I have is a little jar of Vicks Vapor Rub because you couldn't tell me it wasn't the healing balm of Gilead when I was a child. I just knew
Is
when
it
they
not
bust
still, though, Denise?
they have done hundreds of medical tests, and Vicks Vapor Rub has no medicinal value. I know. Look at your face. I'm sorry. I'm a heartbreaker.
You're
I'm a
heartbreaking,
heartbreaker
Mimi.
today.
You're
What,
heartbreaking, Mimi.
and what does that mean? Like something I was 100% sure of was not true. Right. And the third item on my little shrine is a Barack Obama bobblehead doll. Because I have to be honest, when he announced he was running for president, this little skinny guy with this funny name, I laughed out loud because I deeply in my soul did not believe we would have a Black president in my lifetime. And I was wrong not once, but twice. Like I said, you have to let the story change. And to do that, you have to bring humility to all of these conversations and give up winning and try to actually find the right way forward.
Well, speaking of bringing humility to conversations, so in your book, you had me at the danger of a single story. In the spirit of that. Yeah. So in 2000 and I don't remember what year it was, when I went to graduate school, the first day of my first history class, our professor came in, and before we did anything, he said, I have a video. I want you to all watch it. And he showed us Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's Danger of a Single Story. And it changed. I went home, I had my kids watch it. I've had many people watch it. I have watched it over a dozen times since she did it, just course correcting all the time. And so it's so beautiful that you bring that up in the book. How did her talk challenge you in this book?
It was so powerful because it really encapsulates what the problem is, right? If I don't make space to really process what your experience is, how can I possibly educate you, help you, support you, develop you, maximize your giftedness? I have a recurring nightmare. My nightmare is that the cure for cancer has already been born. But we don't have it because it was born in the wrong neighborhood. So we have this practice of developing only some people and giving some people health care and giving some people clean air and healthy food. Like, what a concept. But this idea that if you don't, here's that word again, humility. If you don't have the humility to open up and to understand the necessity, the requirement of learning other people's stories, of processing their other experiences, you can't be the best that you can be. Like, it's not even possible, right? And when you only have one lens through which you look at the world, you think you're limiting other people, but you're really limiting yourself and the capacity of what you can create and what you can make happen. So I don't want that for myself, and I don't want that for the people that I'm working with. And I'm really struck by how often, as I'm talking to leaders, they'll start talking and I'll just stop them and I'll reflect back to them what they're saying. And they're like, wait, is that what I said? That is what you said. Like, they don't hear themselves limiting and putting walls and boxes on what's possible because they're looking at these issues through the lens of lack or loss. Well, what if we look at it through the lens of possibility and expansion? What would that look like? So it's hard. I mean, it's hard. Listen, I was in my mid to late 40s before it ever occurred to me to challenge the story of Rapunzel. Do you remember Rapunzel?
Oh, yeah.
So
I haven't heard
Rapunzel,
about that
Yeah,
story
it's
in
been a minute.
forever.
Rapunzel was in the tower.
the
There's
hair,
no
yeah.
door. There's no door. She has inappropriately long hair. Okay? She is in the tower. She helps the witch get in and out of the tower using her hair. She helps the prince get in and out of the tower using her hair. Y'all, I was in my mid to late 40s before it ever occurred to me. Why didn't she use the hair to get herself out of the tower?
Mm.
Well, I don't think it ever occurred to me till you said it.
Never thought about it.
But think about
Wow.
us as children, especially if you're over 50.
Exactly.
Think of
Yeah.
how many stories have women waiting in the woods for somebody to save them, waiting with the dwarfs for somebody to save them, waiting. We were always waiting for somebody. Think of how those stories crawl around in your head. So when I'm working with executive women and they think I can't get but so far because I have a high voice or because I'm short or because I have a southern accent, I have to say, I'm sorry, we have to release all of these stories that don't serve us but limit what we're capable of, right? And our stories don't let us go easily. They just don't, And so, I could go down that rabbit hole for days. Like my favorite is Beauty and the Beast. So let me get this straight. Beauty and the Beast. So Belle's father is in the dungeon. He is cold. He is starving. He is sick. He is about to die. Belle finally finds him. The beast will not let him go. The only way he will be released is if Belle exchanges her life for her father's life. He doesn't even let her say goodbye to the beast, to her father. Now she's trapped in the tower, in the castle. One day, the beast scares her so badly, she runs into the wolf-infested frozen woods to get away from him. Now walk me through how they end up in love and happily ever after.
You messing up a lot of people's dreams right
No,
now,
I'm
Denise.
breaking hearts.
You
I
breaking
know.
hearts.
It was the French romance. It was a Lumiere. And
But you see what I'm saying? These
Oh, I get
stories.
it.
The moral of the story is true love can turn a beast into a prince. My daughter just turned 30 years old. I do not want her in the business of turning beasts into princes. Like, that's not what I want for her. But these stories are ever present in our culture, and they tell us who the good guy is, who the bad guy is, who gets to live happily ever after, what success looks like. And if you're not willing to challenge those stories, you'll be trapped in somebody else's melodrama. I want to be the star of my own story, not accept somebody else's.
So
Yeah.
when you're working with your clients, how hard is it for them to get that paradigm shift of that changing that story that you just mentioned, that they've been living with perhaps all their lives of their single story, right? They've had that story. They don't know how else to tell another story. How does the
Well,
paradigm shift come with the clients?
yeah, I think once you see it, you can't unsee it. So it's my job to help you see it, right? When I lay out, you're thinking about this like this, but what about this? And they're like, ooh, I never thought about it that way. And I said, that's all I want. That's my goal of my work, is just opening you up. If you say, I've never thought about it that way, I win. 10 points for Gryffindor. That's how I think about it. Because that's the whole thing, right? These are smart people. They run huge organizations. They are well-intentioned people. But if they don't challenge their belief systems and interrogate the stories that inform their decision making, they're going to make poor decisions. They understand that with AI. They understand that with supply chain. They understand that in so many other spaces. And I just try to help them understand it in this one. It's not really that different. If you're locked and stuck, you are in fact locked and stuck. So how do we get you out of that position?
Is a broken story the same as an individual story?
No. Because a broken story is one, in my estimation, that has a deleterious downside, right? So to me, Beauty and the Beast is a broken story because the outcome shouldn't actually be the outcome. So there's all these wonderful, beautiful things about it, but it's still broken, right? And so a broken story is one that kind of causes you to limit your ability to receive other information. Like it blocks the truth.
Interesting. I had after I listened to, so this is how I had my relationship with your book. I listened to it, and then I also bought it, and so then I went and then like went through it and underlined and marked and everything. I like to do that because I like to hear you explaining it to me, and then I like to go in and kind of read it and take it for myself. So when I was done doing all of that, right at that same time, new information came to me that changed my life. Rabbits don't eat carrots. According to the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, rabbits don't eat carrots, and that is a story that was taught through Bugs Bunny. And so all I could think about was you and like rethinking these things, and my brain
whole life is a lie.
Yes.
My whole life is a lie.
Yes. And then your great story of Neil deGrasse Tyson and that the sun doesn't set, and I was just like, I can't. This is Denise, you're too much for me right now.
I love that Neil deGrasse Tyson story because, for just to recap it a little bit. So basically what he says is like language can limit even scientific advancement, because if you have words that you've given something, because we always put ourselves at the center, you're right, of our observable reality doesn't mean it's the actual physical reality. So what his example was, the tide goes in and out, and it's actually not the tide that goes in and out, it's the earth that goes in and out of the water. And that really, I couldn't think about anything else for 5 days after I heard that. I was like, what? Because it's so true, right? And you could think of the things you could build around a false belief.
Yeah.
Think of the whole structures, in his case, he was talking about scientific experiments and theories. They were all wrong because they were built on an incorrect belief system. But we do that every day. And so after the 5th day, I started thinking about this in terms of sunset, right? And it's like, wait, the sun doesn't set. It's actually the earth that sets. And I really started thinking about it. What if I went on an international campaign to change the slogan from sunset to earthset? I think I would fail. I think it would be really, really hard.
Yeah.
And that was
conspiracy theory.
Exactly.
And it was a powerful lesson to me that it doesn't matter if it's true, right? We love our stories so much that it doesn't matter what the truth is. And sometimes people are given brand new information. You could show them all the statistics, all the tests, and they will not believe it. And that's the place that I never want to be. I want to challenge myself to not hold any story so closely that I will not let sunlight in, that I will not let new information in. And so shout out to Neil deGrasse Tyson, amazing astrophysicist.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah.
Anytime he's on TV or talk, I'm like, stop everything he's talking. I have to know what he's doing because I know I'm going to learn something.
Yeah.
And speaking of language, as a Black woman, you're a Black woman, I grew up. And I'm telling you, I heard an interview and you said being twice as good to get just as far is something you are rethinking. You're challenging it. You're challenging that language. 100%. Please explain for the listeners, because I have a lot of Black women followers, as you do too as well. And that for me was like, wait, what? Because that's all I heard all my life. And I'm
Your
from
whole life.
my whole life.
Twice as high. You have to jump twice as high.
Yes.
You have to run twice as fast. You have to be twice as good. And what if I'm enough? What if I, in my spectacular, dynamic, incredible self, what if I'm just enough? And what is the message that we're giving? Again, I said I have a 30-year-old daughter. I don't want her to process her giftedness in relationship to anybody else. She doesn't have any competition. Her job is to develop her gifts to the best of her ability, to be the best version of herself that she can be. I'm not evaluated in competition with anyone else. I am enough. And I think we have a lot of sayings that I want to always be careful that we don't live in our survival skills. I never want to be I don't there are skills that you need to survive. And I want us to leave those when it's time to thrive, right? I want us to have a path to leaving behind damaged structures, damaged archetypes, damaged concepts of who we're supposed to be. I am incredible. Why would I compare myself to anyone else? My job is to be the best me. And so the young people, and I have a lot of young people in my life right now that intern with me or that I mentor, and I tell them to step into their greatness, to be the most capable, to never let their weaknesses cannibalize their strengths. There's so many messages I want them to have, but the idea that they have to be better than somebody sitting next to them, I just don't think there's strength in that. There are times I've been in survival mode in my life. I want to get into deep practice of thriving. I want a whole skill set around thriving. And so that's where I'm focusing my energy.
Thank you. Because I am of that generation, you're of that generation, and there are going to be listeners who, we're moving to that thriving because you are right. The whole we are enough. Yeah. And that wasn't told to us. So it goes back to the language and changing of that story, which is so powerful. Thank you for that. Thank you. Oh my God. I feel like I'm in church right now. Like, Lord. Oh Lord. Can I get an amen? Like, amen. That's literally how I feel right now, hearing you break that down, and to know that your daughter and those younger people you're working with and that are going to listen will go, that's a word. That's a word. Yeah. Wow.
So along those same lines, I heard you say that you want to kill the word authentic.
Oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. We have this thing, and this is a byproduct of social media as well, right? I think that we have abused so many of our words. Like, I heard somebody say the other day, the DEI mayor. I said, what's a DEI mayor? Like, what are y'all even talking about? So many of our words have been bastardized beyond recognition, and I am afraid to say it, but I think authentic is one of them. I've worked with a lot of young people, and I'm gonna be my authentic self. I was late, okay? But I had something going on, and I couldn't make it on time, and they should just understand. I said, honey, they don't have to understand. No, you need to be on time for work. You need to speak to your boss in a respectful way. You need to manage your deadlines. If you can't get something done, you need to send a note that says, hey, I'm going to be delayed in getting that done. And I think we have used the term authentic as a excuse sometimes to not be our best version of ourselves. I authentically want to go to work in my pajamas.
We could have done that here.
If we're being truthful, right? Like, very rarely do I want to put on a suit, but sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to rise to the occasion. And I worry that the seed of the concept of authenticity, I love it. I want you to bring yourself to work. I want you to be authentic in the sense of you sharing your genius and your gifts. I also want you to learn, right? So we have gotten to a space that, like, we don't believe these environments are learning environments. We believe we're coming in to teach. And I'm like, sometimes, especially with young people, I've had to say, you don't know how to do this yet. So before you come in and try to tell us how it should go and how it could be better and what needs to be done differently, why don't you listen, watch, learn, and you may come to some different opinions. You may come up with some innovations and some really profound improvements. I hope that's true for you. But you can't do that until you learn and observe what's going on here first and you grow in this space. So I want you to be authentic, but I also want you to stay in relationship. I want you to stay in relationship with people and to do what is necessary to do that. Right? I want you to have good, productive relationships with the people around you. And so, I mean, I'm brought in, there was a season where I was brought into so many organizations because somebody cursed out their boss. And when I interviewed them, I was just being authentic. I don't let nobody talk to me like that. And I'm like, okay. I don't think that's what, when they wrote those articles about being authentic, I don't think that's what they were talking about, right? So I think this idea of letting a concept grow beyond its borders is what has happened with this word.
Wow. Uh-huh.
Okay, with that, how can Indivisible, and I know we're not using the word authentic, but for this case, authenticity work together though? Because because if they're saying they're bringing their whole self and they're bringing authentic, how can the indivisibility of that work together? How can they, to me, come together? Because I see how you're saying that, but I also, through the book, I also see how the new language of also different generations, because we have all different languages based on when we were born.
That's
how can
right.
they actually come together and work together?
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand that you are not the center of the story. You are one part of this story. If there's 4 generations that work in an office, somebody wants a phone call, somebody wants a text, and it's your job to kind of learn the languages that work with the vast majority of the people in your office. It doesn't revolve around you. I mean, I could say it a whole bunch of nicer ways, but the truth of the matter is like,
that's real talk.
I've had people say to me, I didn't talk to, I worked with a team the other day and they had one gentleman who had a very thick accent and I observed them for days and nobody talked to him. They would email him, they would send him a message in Slack, but I watched them for days. Nobody really ever spoke to him because they were like, oh, his accent is hard to understand and his whatever. And to me, like, I may authentically not feel like the hassle of talking to this guy with this thick accent. Get over it. He was the smartest person on that team. And you're missing out on the synergy and the opportunities of interacting with him because you're centering your comfort. So when I say it's about being in relationship, I mean that, right? I want you to wear your hair the way it grows out of your head. I want you to be able to use the language and the kind of some of the conversation that you use normally. But I also want you to understand that when you use slang, jargon, you risk being misunderstood. I share a story in the book of a friend of mine who was having a meeting and he was asking the team to brainstorm ideas. And one young woman makes a suggestion and he stops the meeting. He says, say less, and breaks up the meeting and sends everybody back to work. Well, she calls HR and he's in the office like, what is happening? She is in tears. Why did he tell her to shut up in front of everybody in that meeting? And he was like, what are you talking about?
Because he didn't understand what it means.
Yeah.
She did not understand that say less meant that's a great idea. Mm-hmm. We don't even have to talk anymore. You win the day. Like, she didn't understand that, right? So yes, you can authentically use slang and jargon, but you have to understand you're going to be misunderstood sometimes. Mm-hmm. You are a part of a group, of a team. Do the best you can to be understood and to be able to communicate effectively with that team. And so that means sometimes I can't wear my pajamas to the meeting. It means sometimes I'm going to have to be outside of my comfort zone and talk to somebody I might not otherwise talk to. But if I'm going to be a part of this group, I'm going to have to do that stretch.
That's good.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But I'm going to talk about relationship with you. How are you in relationship with yourself? Because you have a lot of different energies going around. So how are you in relationship with yourself, and how do you put your book to work within yourself?
Ooh, I love me some me. I love me some me, y'all. I do. I think it's so important to make sure that you are filling your cup. I think one of the worst stories that I was told growing up is like, you're always supposed to be working harder than everybody else and making sure everybody's comfortable and make sure everybody is settled and they have what they need and whatever. And I don't know that anybody ever told me, like, are you okay? Do you have what you need? What are your strategies when you end up on E? Why do you let yourself get to E, right? I still have sometimes a weirdness about, my husband may say, I'm going to get you a spa day. Oh, that's too expensive. Or we're going to go on this trip. I don't know. Should we do that? And it's like, why not? You have to refill yourself. You have to refuel yourself. So I've really done a lot of work, especially in the work that I do. There can be a lot of hostility, a lot of negativity. And I have to remember, like, I have to do this work from the scar, not from the wound. Oh. And what I mean by that is,
she keeps taking us to church.
I know it. Oh my gosh! Wow!
But I have to be healed. I have to be healed. I have to be healed. If I come into these spaces broken and cranky and upset and challenged and whatever, how can I possibly help somebody else to open up their perspective if I'm walking around with my arms crossed? So I have to feed into myself. I really believe, there's a coworker I had, my gosh, 25 years ago, seriously. I am not organized. Y'all, if you could see my desk right now, there are a million little pieces of paper and I have little notes. I got Post-it notes everywhere. I am not an organized person. And I had all of these books, Taming the Paper Tiger, Get in Your, right? All of the organization books, And one day she came into my office with a box. And she walked over to the bookshelf. She did not speak to me. She went to the bookshelf and she started picking all of them up and putting them in the box. And I was like, hi, what are we doing? And she said, I'll never forget it. She said, you are incredible. You are given a set of gifts to change the world. You spend all of your energy trying to fix your weaknesses. I don't need you to be organized. You could pay somebody for that. I need you to operate at the fullness of your giftedness. So no more. How you're going to change the world is by fortifying your strengths, not by constantly being obsessed with your weaknesses. And I think how many women spend their lives fixing what they perceive as broken. And what if you could just give that stuff up? Honey, I went home to my to-do list. I took a bunch of stuff off. I was like, gone. I did. I took a bunch of stuff off the to-do list because
it gives me chills.
I know, right?
You're not going to change the world by being better at yoga. If that's not your strength. If you can't do a headstand, the world will carry on.
Yes.
But if you don't do what your gift is, that's where you cheat everyone around you. So that has given me the confidence and the motivation to preserve my giftedness. And I hope everyone listening to this, find the courage to preserve your giftedness, to preserve and to feed and to stoke and to nourish the thing in you that makes you great. Because if you don't do that, then you cheat you and you cheat the rest of us. So, like I said, I love me some me, and I encourage everyone listening to find that deep love for themselves as well.
Oh man, you've given us so much to think about, like total chill moments, quite a few of them. Incredible. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one more question for you.
Oh my God, I feel like I'm in church. I just need a fan right now.
It's just been amazing. I feel actually we probably have about 45 more questions for you, but for the sake of time. So, our podcast is Just Getting Better. And we like to ask each other, how are we just getting better? So for you this week and this day and this time, how are you, Denise Hamilton, just getting better?
So I thought about this. And I think the way I am choosing to just get better is to invest deeply in the relationships that I have in my life right now. I think one of the things that happened with COVID is that a lot of our social networks really just fell away. I mean, people that you would see at an event or you would see at your kid's game, or you just didn't see those people anymore. And so I think one of the things I'm trying to do for this month is to really go back and rekindle some of those relationships. Go through that LinkedIn and say, wait, how's that old coworker doing? And send them a note. Pick up the actual phone and call some people and talk to them and just kind of prioritize relationships. I think that as AI is upon us, the idea of what it means to be human is something we all need to think about, right? And for me, it's about being able to connect person to person. And so what am I actually doing on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, to really connect with the people I say I love or care about? That's extended family, that's my professional network, people that have supported me and championed me. People are saying my name in rooms I can't even imagine right now with this book. And I'm so grateful. And so what am I doing to pick up the phone and say, thank you so much. And thank you for encouraging me. Your note that you sent was so sweet. Like, what happened to that actual feeling of community and staying connected to each other? So the gift I'm giving myself, how I'm going to get better this month, is actual human contact. The real kind.
Yay! Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Denise. This is amazing.
This book is really, it made me rethink, reflect, seriously. And I've already told my husband, you're reading this. And he's like, okay, it sounds great. So yes. And copies for friends. People, buy a copy for yourself and buy a copy for your friends and colleagues.
Denise, where can everyone find you?
Oh gosh, watchherwork.com is my company. I'm on all the social platforms at official DHam, official Denise Hamilton, official DHam, and denisehamilton.co. C-O. There's another author named Denise Hamilton, and she will not give me my URL. But denisehamilton.co is another place. So, and just find me, just call me.
Yes,
yell out the window.
And Indivisible is where all books are sold. I mean, every version is great, but if you're like us, I think hardback and then digital.
Do them both.
Do them both.
I recorded the audiobook.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, it's great.
I can't even believe that people don't record their own books. I'm like,
a lot of people don't.
Somebody else do that. I have to do that. So it is my actual voice.
It is. Yes, it is.
Hope you enjoy listening to it.
Thank you so much,
Denise. Thank you. You'll have to come back and see us sometime.
Yes. Anytime. Call me.
Thank you. Best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Oh man, amazing.
That's great.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Denise.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. I'm like blown away how much detail, how deeply you researched. I was like, okay. I've been on some other podcasts with some very famous people who shall remain nameless, who I felt like, did you even read the notes? Did you they weren't prepared at all.
Oh yeah, we marked it up.
No, yeah, seriously. So I mean, I listened to it and read it.
Oh my gosh, I'm blown away. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for sharing your platform. I know the work that it takes to create a space, and there's like the greatest gift is the gift of your attention. And I thank you so much. I really appreciate you both.
We thank you too. Thank you. Yes. Best of luck with sales too.
Yes. Thanks. Bye.
Okay, Michelle.
Oh, Julia, wasn't that such a great interview? Yeah. Thank you to Denise.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. How are you just getting better this week?
Let's see. This week has been a busy week. A very busy week. I think for me this week, the things that I am doing to try to just get better this week is just focus on staying calm, breathing. I've actually, I've been doing some meditations that focus on breathing because I notice my breathing is very shallow. I don't breathe all the way down into my lungs like I used to. So that's my focus this week for just getting better. When the storms start swirling, all blessings, all great things, but when it starts getting busy, just calm and breathing.
Okay, good.
So
good.
what about you, my dear?
I organized my computer desktop. And I know that doesn't seem like it.
No, totally does.
It was like I needed to find things, and things were in different places. So I just spent like a morning, 2 hours, blocked my calendar with a cup of coffee, and just organized the desktop. And now my desktop matches my phone, and I can find everything I need quickly.
Doesn't it feel so good?
Feels so good.
I actually organized my makeup drawer. I bought like a drawer organizer,
Exactly. Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, I feel so good.
It feels so good.
Yeah.
So, and we're toasting with this beautiful Pierre Gimonet champagne Pierre Gimonet.
I love this champagne.
Gimonet.
Yes.
I just love them. I think they're great producers. Old Vines and Champagne, what they're doing. Beautiful Chardonnay.
Oh, it does smell amazing.
Just a fun champagne. One of the really nice, generational champagne producers.
Yeah.
But DDA, who is like the face right now, he is just so nice, so adorable.
Yeah.
He's delightful to
Yeah.
drink champagne with because he doesn't take himself so seriously and he doesn't take the family champagnes, but it's like he knows what he's doing and it's always a good time.
Well, and I visited them in 22 because of the Old Vines. Old Vines are very hard to find in Champagne.
Very hard to find. And so that's what we're toasting with.
It's delicious.
Cheers.
Oh, I
All right.
love it.
Just
Cheers
getting better,
to you,
sis.
dear.
All right.
Thanks for listening to Just Getting Better with your host, Michelle Williams.
And Julia Coney.
We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into some important topics impacting women today. To ensure you never miss an episode, click follow or subscribe.
Head over to isjustgettingbetter.com to sign up for our email list, as well as check out all the links and resources in the show notes. And be sure to follow us on social media. If you love the show, will you please help us build our community by sharing it with friends? Until next time.
Keep just getting better.